Well, good morning. It is so good to be here. My name is Charles Ficken, and I have the privilege of being a part of our student ministry team. I've been at Athens Church for the last 15 years in this role as Director of Student Ministries, and today is such a fun day where we get to just kind of highlight some of the things that are going on, as Mark just shared and as you've seen on screen. I've spent the last 20 years of my life in a church working as a youth pastor. It's crazy that I think back. I never, when I started, I had no idea that I would be in student ministry for 20 years, but I've been doing that. And I love the opportunity to help lead students into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. But this past year, I had a first. I experienced something that I had never experienced before. And no, I didn't become an overnight TikTok sensation with my dance moves. That'd have been awesome. You know, they didn't invite me up here for a reason because they knew how good I was. No, I'm not a TikToker. Actually, I've never posted a TikTok before. Sorry, guys. I know, so uncool. No, we didn't leave a student in another state somewhere. That's always a fear of mine. It's like, don't leave them in Mexico. Don't leave them wherever. That's terrible. And nothing against Mexico. I'm sure it's a great place, but their parents want them home. And so I always wonder. I'll make sure we get everybody. But that didn't happen. This year, my oldest moved into middle school. And for the last 2 decades, as I've been leading other people's kids, now I was leading one of my own. Here's a picture of my family right here. And Anders is my oldest, and he's almost a 7th grader. He actually is a 7th grader now. So crazy, we've just spent an entire year with a middle schooler. And I've gotten to see up close and personal the changes mentally, physically, emotionally, relationally, spiritually that students go through in this season of their lives. Because as they move from elementary to adulthood into college or whatever else they do, they're in this kind of intermediate phase where they're not a child anymore, but they're not yet an adult. And there's a lot of development that's taking place. A lot of things are changing. A lot of things are forming. And every single year, they're asking some questions underneath the surface. And they're bigger questions than, should I wear deodorant? Should I take a shower this week? They're bigger questions than, should I audition for the play? Should I try out for the team? Should I text her and ask her out? Should I hang out with this group? They're bigger questions than that. You see, in 6th grade, students are becoming more and more aware of who they are. They're becoming a little bit more of just maybe who they're not, maybe. And they're becoming more self-critical. And they're beginning to ask the question, who likes me? Who do I like? Where are my people going to be? Where can I fit in? And it begins up until that point when they're elementary kids, they're not really thinking as much about that, but now in middle school, it's a whole new reality. But then they move into 7th and 8th grade. And while they're a little more comfortable in middle school now, I'll tell you what they're not comfortable with. They're not comfortable with who they are because they're increasingly self-conscious. They're increasingly aware of who's around them and what that person's like. And they're asking the question, who am I? And in these middle school years, there's nothing parents you can do more than to affirm them, to create environments of acceptance for them, to dial people in who can affirm them as they journey through these questions of who likes me, who am I? But then they move into high school, and so much is reshuffled. There's new friendships, there's new schedules, there's a new school, there's new, things that they're interested in. And they're beginning to look around and they're forming new tribes and they're thinking about this question right here, where do I belong? Where do I belong? And freshmen, you know that. Walking into that big high school and you're the youngest and you're like, man, how is this gonna work out? And where do I belong? And then they move into 10th grade. And in 10th grade, golly, there's so much that they're encountering. The 10th grade is a really challenging year. It's maybe one of the most difficult years because they're getting more and more freedom and there's a lot more bumps and there's a whole lot emotionally going on there in their hearts and minds and lives. And there's a lot of pushback that I know parents, as I've heard from parents over the years. But this is when they're beginning to drive and they're beginning to push to the limits. But let me tell you what's happening spiritually. With this newfound freedom, they're beginning to break things down. And they're wondering, why should I believe? Is all this stuff I've heard, is it really true? What do I believe? And sadly, This is a year we see students walk away from regularly attending their small group, from inside out, because so much is going on right now for them. And then they move into their 11th grade year. And these juniors are maybe some of the most confident of the bunch because they've been through the drill of high school. They've got it down. And there's a lot less drama in 11th grade, but let me tell you, there's a whole lot more stress because they begin to become involved with everything. They are filling their schedules with so many things, and they're thinking about this question: how can I matter? How can I matter? And then from the time they end that 11th grade year, they got one thing on their mind, and these seniors who are here today know it. They're thinking about the question, what will I do? What am I gonna do next? What's next for me? And if you take all of these questions that I just unpacked and you were to begin to just think about, hey, what do they have in common? Well, I'll tell you, there's three themes that begin to emerge that students are struggling with in this season of their life. Three big themes: identity, belonging, and purpose. Identity. Who am I? Belonging. Where do I belong? And purpose. What difference do I make? And parents in the room, adults in the room, as I look at these questions, one thing we know is you don't get all these answered by the time you graduate high school. In fact, a lot of you sitting here today are still struggling and trying to figure out the answers to these questions. These are significantly important questions that we bump into. And what we just went through over the past year and a half may has disturbed some of these things even more for you, and it's kind of unsettled you even more. But see, almost as important as these questions right here is another question. And it's simply this: where do you go to find the answers to these questions? Students, right here looking at me. Where do you go to find the answers to the question, who are you? Where do you belong? What difference do you make? Adults, where are you looking and finding the answers to these questions? I'll tell you this. We go to some really unhealthy places. I want to just speak about one of them we go to. And teenagers, man, this is wrecking you right now. And adults, you don't get a pass because it's wrecking you too. I've talked to a lot of counselors. Counselors are doing really good right now. There's a lot of emotional and mental health issues right now. And let me tell you one of the biggest reasons why. It's this right here. Where are we going to find the answers to the questions, who am I? Where do I belong? What difference do I make? We spend 8 hours in front of screens a day. A lot of that is social media. And students, you know what you do. You know what you're doing all the time. Instagram, whatever it is, Snapchat, all the different things. Here you are. This is your world. You're so connected. But let me tell you what's happening, what you don't understand. You are pumping yourself with messages every single day of comparison. You're living in a state of constant comparison. And it's not surprising to me, it's just tragic. Actually, it's a crisis, I would say, that in the last 10 years, the suicide rate among 13 to 25-year-olds has tripled. There's a direct correlation between social media and our emotional and mental health. And let me tell you something. This is a place we go. This is a place we're getting that question answered. This is a place today, when you go home, it will go through your mind, I'm supposed to be like this. Oh, look at that person. Oh, and you're constantly just comparing yourself one after the other. This is what I think I should be. This is who I'm not. And you're reminded of who you're not. And it's wrecking you. And adults, it's messing with you too. It's affecting you too. Where else do we go? We go to so many unhealthy places. I mean, we throw ourselves into our careers and our jobs and our statuses, and we've worked so hard to get the initials after our name, and we're proud of them, and you should be proud of them. You worked really hard, but that's not who you are. That doesn't answer these questions over here. We throw ourselves into what we have and our stuff, and we have our house or our houses, and we look at ourselves and we think, man, I've accomplished a lot. I must be pretty successful. I must have arrived somewhere. And we look at what we're a part of and who we hang out with. And in that, we determine a lot of these questions. But guess what? That's not leading us to the right answers. In fact, when I look at these questions, who am I? Where do I belong? What difference do I make? These are questions with eternal implications. These are really massively important questions. We can't go to the world to figure out the answer to these questions. We can't take these questions to social media. We can't take these questions to other people's perceptions of us. We've got to take eternal questions to the one who is eternal. And this morning, for the few minutes that we have, I want to look at a passage of scripture today that we find in the book of 1 Peter. And now let me just tell you a little bit about Peter. Peter was one of these guys. He was one of Jesus' closest friends. He walked with Jesus, followed Jesus. He witnessed what Jesus did. He saw Jesus do the miraculous. He got to experience who Jesus was firsthand. He saw Jesus crucified. He saw Jesus and interacted with Jesus after Jesus had resurrected from the tomb. And he heard from Jesus' words, from Jesus' mouth, that Peter, I'm gonna make you the rock on which I build my church. And Peter was pivotal in taking the message of Jesus, the gospel, beyond the borders of Israel. And he finds himself in Rome, and he's writing at around AD 60 roughly. And he's writing to a group, all kinds of non-Jewish Christians who were in the middle of facing all kinds of persecution. They were facing hostility and harassment from their Greek and Roman neighbors. And they were struggling. They were struggling to follow the way of Jesus. And Peter hears of their persecution. He knows their persecution. And so he writes this letter to challenge them, to encourage them, to show them some things that would matter right now in the midst of their suffering and struggle. And I want to look at something he says in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. You can turn it with your Bibles if you want to, on your phones, but we have it right here as well. He says this, but he's talking to these Christians who are in the middle of this persecution, scattered all about Asia Minor. And he says, but you are God's chosen treasure, priests who are kings, a spiritual nation set apart as God's devoted ones. Let's keep going. He called you out of darkness to experience his marvelous light, and he now claims you as his very own. He did this so that you would broadcast his glorious wonders throughout the world. For at one time, you were not God's people, but now you are. For at one time, you knew nothing of God's mercy, but because you hadn't received it. But now, you are drenched with it. When you look at what he writes, and I don't know what was in his mind, we know this, that the whole Bible was put together. It was inspired by the Holy Spirit of God. We can stake our life on it. Bible first, Bible last. It is the authority of our lives. And we trust that as Peter was writing this, somewhere he was sitting down and he was thinking about what to communicate to these persecuted Christians who were facing hostility and harassment. And they were struggling to walk in the way of Jesus. What do you say to them? And you know what he does? He hammers away at who they are. He hammers away at their identity. He answers the question for them, who are you as a follower of Jesus? Because why does he do that? Because he knows this. And we know this, that our identity, it informs our living. Our identity, who we think we are, dictates what we do. Who we believe we are transforms the way we think and live and act. It is that significant. And Peter is saying, hey, you who are in the middle of persecution, you've got to understand who you are. Let me tell you who you are. And you know what he tells them? He says, you are God's chosen treasure. That is who you are. And let's unpack that for a second. You're God's chosen treasure. Like, I don't know if we fully understand what that is all about. But basically what Peter is saying is you are accepted today by God. I know you got a lot of junk. I know you've done a lot of things. Students, I know you're doing, you're lying, all the kind of things you're doing. Hey, God knows it all. And he still says, if you're a follower of him, you are my chosen treasure. But maybe these students are interacting with more than maybe some of our adults today, is that in this season of their life, let me tell you what's significant for them. Let me tell you what's on the radar all the time. Where can I find acceptance? Where can I find an environment or people who accept me? And the reason why that's so important, because they know this, they felt the sting of rejection. And parents, adults, you felt it too. You see, we make so many decisions because we want to avoid environments of rejection. We want to resist that as much as we can, and we gravitate towards acceptance because we know how good acceptance feels. On the flip side, we know what it feels like to be chosen. Let's just think about it for a second. Students, it feels good to be chosen for that team, doesn't it? It feels good to be chosen by that girl. Adults, it feels good to be chosen for that job, to be chosen for that promotion, to be chosen for that party, to be chosen with that group of people you admire. We know what it feels like to be chosen. And God is saying, if you are in Christ today, if you follow me, if you accept me as Lord and Savior, then you are my chosen treasure. But it gets even better. It gets even better. He says, you're not just my chosen treasure. You're priests who are kings. You're royalty today. You didn't wake up this morning thinking you were royalty. You just tried to get out of bed and get here as fast as you could. And man, I got to do this church thing. But I want to tell you the truth about you today. You are royalty according to God. You are a spiritual nation set apart as God's devoted ones. Let's keep going. He called you out of darkness to experience his marvelous light. And now, watch this. He claims you as his very own. Here's the cliff notes for you. You are extremely valuable today to God. Now watch this. He doesn't just say, okay, you're accepted. Okay, we'll add another one. Okay, you can come too. I mean, our list is getting pretty long. We'll squeeze you in. He doesn't just accept you. No, he says you are extremely valuable to me. You are mine. I claim you as mine. Now, how do we know if something has value today? How do we know? We know for a couple reasons how something has value. What somebody's willing to pay for something, that's how we know how valuable something is, right? The housing market, it's crazy, right? What's your home worth? Well, whatever someone's willing to pay for it, that's how we know. And today, God wants you to know that he paid the ultimate price for you when he sent his son, Jesus, to hang on a cross, to die a painful death so that you and him could have a right relationship with God. That's how valuable you are. But how else do we know how something's valuable? We know something's valuable by who owns it. Like, I want to do this in real time. Like, I wish I could get my phone out and we could do this in real time. But you know what? The housing market, it's off the charts. We all know that. But what you may not know is the shoe market is pretty hot right now too. I don't know if you know that, man, but I mean, I'm new to this, but I'm telling you, man, you put some Jordan 1s out there if they're the right style, I mean, you may get a couple grand for those shoes. It's like, what? Who knew, right? Got a pair of Jordan 1s right here. These are fresh. These are great, right? I could put these bad boys on eBay right now or Poshmark, and I do pretty good. Would you like to have a pair of these? Yeah, who wouldn't if you're below the age, I don't know. Adults, you could rock this too. You'd be great. Adults, get you a pair, okay? They're awesome, Instant relevance right here, some Gen 1s. Now watch this. What if we went on eBay or Poshmark right now, and these exact same shoes were on there? They were there, and mine were $400, I didn't pay that for them. They're not even mine. I borrowed them. How about that? All right, don't judge me. Golly, haterade around here. No, look, this right here. These same shoes are on eBay, Poshmark. Same color, same style, same year. But there's one difference. LeBron is selling his shoes. Which one's gonna be more valuable? Mine or LeBron's? Well, we know the answer to that question, not because LeBron's more important than me, not because he's better than me, but because the perceived value, because they're his. And God today says, if you know me, I claim you as my very own. You see, our identity, it's so important. It informs how we live, but it gets beyond that. You know what else identity does? Identity brings into clarity our purpose. Identity leads to our destiny. Today, adults and students, here's what I want you to understand. Who you think you are, it only doesn't inform how you live, it informs what you're about. And Peter reminds them of that. He says, this is who you are. God has given you a whole new identity. He's transformed who you are. You thought this way about you. You feel this way about you, but here's what's true about you. And then he says, here's the reason he did it. He did this. Let's keep going, verse 9. He did this so that you would broadcast his glorious wonders throughout the world. Why did he give you a new identity? Why did he choose you? Why did he accept you? Why does he dearly love you? Because you're lovable, but because he wants you to be about his business. He gave you a new identity. He made you something new so that you could make known who he is. You see, students, we've got a brand new purpose. You see, we can't go to the world for the answers to these questions. It's so faulty, it's gonna trip us up. But then Peter takes it one step farther and he's thinking, okay, all right, I hope you get all that. It's a lot. But here's the thing, you can do it. Like you can live for a purpose greater than yourself. You can make known and broadcast me to the world. You can do it. And let me remind you of something today. Again, about your identity. He says this in the next verse. He says this, dear friends, I warn you, as temporary residents and foreigners, Athens Church, I don't know what you believe. I don't know where you are with God. But if you're a follower of Jesus today, what else is true about you is that this isn't your home. This is not your home. You are a temporary resident. And he's speaking to the heart of these persecuted Christ followers. And he's saying, I know it's hard. I know it's tough. Listen, this is who you are. Keep being about this purpose. But let me remind you, it's just a dash. It's just a little bit of time. And then one day, you'll experience eternity, which is your permanent home. You see, I'm born 1978. One day I'm gonna pass. And there's gonna be a dash in the middle. And let me just tell you something, students, adults, we get so caught up in the dash that we lose sight of the eternal. We get so focused on the dash that what we're doing in this world that we forget that we're just temporary residents and foreigners in this life, that there is life to come for every follower of Jesus. And we need to set our hearts and minds on things above. And we need to set our hearts and minds on things above when it comes to who am I, where do I belong, and what difference do I make? And that's why every single week it matters here what we do. It's why every single week in student ministry, we want to help students understand who they are according to who God says they are. And so we pump who they are, their identity. We are bringing into focus as much as we can, as much as they can receive who God says about them. And that's why we give them an environment they can connect in and be a part of. And they have leaders who love them and care for them so they can find a sense of belonging in the family of God because we need to belong. And then we want to give them a purpose. We want to show them what their purpose is. And right here in the local church, let me tell you, adults, what happens week in and week out in this church. Probably a couple hundred students are serving. Probably a couple hundred students are getting up early in the morning. They're showing up in a preschool environment. They're showing up in an elementary environment. They're a small group leader, teaching Bible stories, helping to connect the dots of who Jesus is, of who God thinks about you. They're showing up in transit, our middle school environment. We got high schoolers who are taking the reins of being a small group leader, and they're making a difference right now. And I'm telling you, if you were to ask those students what's the best part of serving, of being here on a Sunday, they would probably say, I love transit, I love Inside Out, but I love my fourth graders. I love my pre-Kers. I love my seventh graders that I'm getting to influence. You know, I asked some of our staff about some of the numbers of our students serving, and one of our staff members in Wombaland said this. She said, Charles, coming out of the pandemic, you know who's showing out the most right now? Our students. Middle school and high school and college students. Those are the ones who are serving right now. Those are the ones who are courageous to show up and serve. And I'm not throwing any shade at anybody because we all have our reasons. But I just want to encourage you, adults, let's get in the game. It's why we do what we do around here for you. We want to help every single week you discover who God says about you, so you would be less inclined to go here. And I'm just telling you, the more that we go here, the more it's going to trip us up. And so here's what I want to encourage you. We've been saying Bible first, Bible last. Adults, would you take a challenge? Would you decide that, you know what, I'm searching in a lot of places to answer the question of who am I? I'm looking at what they think about me. I'm looking at what other people in culture think I should be. I'm looking at what the trend in my industry thinks I should be. But I'm not spending any time right here seeing who God says I am. And it's real simple. It's so simple. Like, it all comes down to your desire. If you desire to get to know who you are more, if you desire, then all you have to do is pick up the word and start. You say, we spend so much time over here. We put the time in over here. We put hours in over here. This isn't just a checkbox. This is life transforming. So when it comes to our identity, adults, I hope that you would take your cue about you from the one who made you, loved you, and redeemed you. That's what I hope. And when it comes to belonging, man, you can belong here. You can belong here, adults. Like we've created so many environments. We've got many environments. We've got Starting Point, where I love the Starting Point. You can belong before you even believe. If you're not even sure where you are with your faith, that's okay. You can belong here. You can join a small group. You can get connected because your relationship with God, it's personal, but it was never meant to be private. Get connected. And then would you serve? Would you consider? That's why we do what we do. We create these environments, and we need your help. And right now, especially coming out of this pandemic, where everybody's kind of making up their mind, their comfort levels, would you be courageous to show up and serve? Would you be courageous to give your life away? You know, you heard it today. What's happening in Upstreet is going to be right here in a few years. And you can make a difference today, next week, this summer in Upstreet, in Wombaland, in student ministry. We want to encourage you to do that. But just pick one. Maybe this summer. Maybe you just pick one. Just pick one. I'm going to focus in on my identity. I'm going to answer this belonging question. I'm going to seek to take a deep dive there. I'm going to be about, see, here's the thing. A lot of you are so successful today. You're so successful, and I'm so glad for you. You're so successful. You've got a job, but you don't have a lot of purpose. You're making a lot of money, but you're not feeling a whole lot of significance. And Peter reminded us today, God has made us who we are so we could make known who he is. He's inviting us in. So as we close today, here's what I'm going to do. The band's going to come, and we're going to sing a song. And I think the song could be just a powerful moment as we just, receive these words. Maybe you sing along, whatever you want to do. But here's what we do. Here's what the truth is. Culture is all about you finding your identity. It's all about you figuring out who you are, searching for it, striving for it. But I want to tell you, students and adults, God says you don't have to strive. I've already told you who you are. And what we have to do is come to the place where we receive it, or we embrace it, and we accept it. And we allow what he says about us, which is true no matter how we feel. And I understand we can get tripped up with how we feel. But he says, this is what's true about you. And the more that sinks in as a teenager, the more strength you have to walk through your middle school and high school years, because it is difficult. Because all of you are trying to figure out who you are, what it would look like if you had enough courage to say, I know who I am. I'm a child of God. I'm accepted. I'm loved. I'm valuable. I don't care what you think. I don't care if I wear the right clothes. I don't care if I look the right way. I know who I am, and I don't take my cue from social media. I don't take my cue from the girls over there. I don't take my cue from who's popular. I take my cue from the one who made me, loved me, and redeemed me. That is who you are. But adults, part of the reason they're doing that is because you haven't done this. Is you haven't found it out for yourself. Don't lose sight. Spend this summer. Take a step, take a dive, get some people, go to counseling, whatever it is you need to do, because it's that important. So as the band closes, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pray. But before I pray, I just want to take a moment. And I just want to speak over you some of what God says is true about you today. And I want to invite you in just a moment to close your eyes. And if you're courageous enough, just hold out your hands. Just a posture of receiving. A posture to say, you know what? I have a hard time believing it because of all the things I feel, but I'm gonna just receive what's true about me today. And if you're not a follower of Jesus today, then I pray you would know the goodness of God, how madly in love he is with you. Here's what I also want you to know. These things that I'm about to say, they can be true of you in an instant. So would you close your eyes? If you're so willing, would you just hold out your hands and just receive these words? You are forgiven and your sins washed away. You are greatly loved by God. You are God's masterpiece. You are filled right now with the same Spirit of God that raised Jesus from the dead. There is power inside of you. You are a joint heir with Christ in the heavenlies. You are Christ's ambassador, as though he was making his appeal through you. That is who you are today. You are the light of the world. You are more than a conqueror. You are the righteousness of God in Christ. Oh, Father, I pray we would receive it. But more than we receive it, I pray we would live out of it. Because when we embrace our identity, we know it impacts our future. It brings into clarity our purpose. There's a confidence by which we can stand. Holy Spirit of God, would you awaken us to this morning? In your name we pray. Amen.